Bottom of the hour, the top of the news now. The Russians suspected of supplying the Taliban with weapons. That's what a top U.S. commander told Congress today.
It's fair to assume they may be providing some kind of support to them in terms of weapons or other things that may be there. I think that is the possibility. I believe what Russia is attempting to do is they are attempting to be an influential party in this part of the world.
And that's not all. Last week, NATO's supreme allied commander and the top U.S. general in Europe made a very similar accusation. Think of the big picture here. The Taliban targets American troops. The Taliban is trying to kill our people. And the accusation is the Russians are supporting the Taliban. The Kremlin, of course, is pushing back. A spokesperson for the defense minister telling Russian state media that Moscow has had no cooperation with organizations recognized as terrorists by the United Nations. But the question remains, were the Russians helping the Taliban as the Taliban try to kill American troops? Garrett Tenney with the news. He's live in Washington. Garrett, why would Russia help the Taliban?
Well, Russia is really coming full circle here, Shep. After all, what we know as the Taliban today started with some of the same fighters that helped drive out the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan back in the 1980s with training in weapons from the CIA. Now, almost 30 years later, the tables have turned, and U.S. military leaders believe Russia is now likely providing the Taliban with supplies and weapons in the fight against U.S.-backed fighters. Today, General Votel, who is the head of the U.S. Central Command, said he believes ISIS and the Kremlin's desire to stop its spread into Central Asia is a big reason why. Votel told the House Armed Services Committee the Kremlin has likely determined the Taliban has a better shot at tackling ISIS than the country's current government, which is also backed by the West.
And so they have created a narrative that you really have to partner more with the Taliban to address this particular threat. And they are trying to leverage that into a bigger role in terms of, I think, trying to pursue peace agreements and other things with the Taliban. Frankly, I don't consider it to be particularly helpful at this particular point.
And what adds to the concerns of U.S. leaders is that Afghanistan is only the latest Middle Eastern country where Russia is attempting to expand its influence and aligning itself with anti-American forces. Shep.
If the Russians are in fact helping supply the Taliban, then do the Americans change our strategy, did he say?
Well, for right now, they said no, and they said that it won't have much of an impact on our strategy. They admit, though, that currently Afghanistan is essentially at a stalemate, and it'll take a couple thousand more troops in the country in order to change that. Shep.
Garrett Tenney in D.C., thanks.